Veteran journalists repeat call for Freedom of Information Act. The absence of a Freedom of Information Act and a whistleblower protection legislation in Barbados does not prevent the media from pursuing certain types of stories, though it can limit what is presented. So said retired station manager of Starcom Network David Ellis and editor-in-chief of the Nation Publishing Co. Limited Carol Martindale. Well, guests on VOB's Brass Tacks Sunday radio call-in program, they said the journalists should continue lobbying for the enactment of these and other measures which would help the media hold people in public positions accountable while at the same time protecting confidential sources. Quote, I believe the Freedom of Information legislation is necessary in my judgment, and I think some other pieces of legislation are important, like the anti-corruption legislation. That is also very important, and whistleblower protection is crucial. These are things I think will help us a lot more right now, Ellis said. He also noted that while Barbadians have been calling for more investigative journalism, there were instances where people who came forward with information were ridiculed for doing it. He said that occurred earlier this year at the Government Industrial School (GSI), where former board member Marsha Hines Lane was removed. Quote, a lot of people who are talking about the need to investigate also need to look at this society and recognize how intimidating so many people are. There is no whistleblower protection in this country. We just had a recent incident at the GIS, and if you listen to how some people spoke about the main spokesperson who revealed the information to the public and who said, quote, I was repeatedly trying to get this thing sorted, end quote. The person who was treated as though they breached a national secret. It was as if this person should be punished in the eyes of some for doing that. And this is the same country that has listened to politicians and others talk about the need for whistleblower protection. That is, they are not committed to it as a country as they say. Correct. It is in the claimant that people have had to practice journalism in Barbados outside. Martindale pointed out that over the years, both Democratic Labour Party and Barbados Labour Party administrations had promised to deliver on the Freedom of Information legislation, but it had not materialized. For some time, the media has lobbied for Freedom of Information Act. That act would allow us to do the job we need to do and to do it properly and responsibly. When I go back to the days of the nation founder Harold Hoyt, this has been an issue then, and thus far we have not been able to have a Freedom of Information Act. Quote, successful governments have spoken about it. It has even been included in manifestos, has been spoken about on ventilated political platforms. But when it comes to putting in the work and effort for it to be a reality, we are still waiting, she said. Martindale noted that although absolute privilege was allowed when covering such areas as Parliament setting, the absence of the Act was still a hindrance. While you may be in Parliament and you may be covered under the Parliament privileges of reporting what is said, there is still no room for us to make sure we still lobby for the Act because it is crucial. It is critical to what we do. It allows us to execute our tasks responsibly because there are many issues, she added. Last August, Attorney General Marshall said government would be paying attention to the Freedom of Information Bill over the next 12 months. We are not going to get a Freedom of Information Bill. What are you talking about? I am surprised that mainstream, some people, but there's still some people in mainstream media who believe in freedom and truth and exposing the evils of the government. However, we've seen that, the government politicians always talking about doing this and doing that, and then when they get in, they don't do anything. It's just a cycle, vicious cycle. I'm glad to see there's still people in mainstream media who believe in freedom and still want a Freedom of Information Act to do proper reporting. Because if you look at the US, I think they have a Freedom of Information Act. Um, I don't think they have whistleblower protection though, because look at what they did to Edward Snowden. He came out and blew the whistle on the NSA spying, the government spying on the US citizens. And he, you know, he had to flee to Russia because if they caught him, he would have been imprisoned for life or been tried for treason or something like that. And look at what they're doing to Julian Assange, who came out with the WikiLeaks. You know, thing is, he spent I think 7 years in in solitary confinement in a in an embassy or something like that. I'm not too informed of Julian Assange, but I know the gist. Whistleblower came out, blew the whistle on the horrors of what happened in the overseas wars and the drone strikes on children and the bombings and all that stuff. Serious stuff. And none of the two of them have been pardoned. Many whistleblowers have came out in the U.S. and have been imprisoned for life. You know, when you know telling the truth is a revolutionary act in society right now, and they want to keep the truth hidden. And if there is a Freedom of Information Act implemented and a Whistleblower Act implemented in Barbados, we're gonna see more than likely we're gonna see more people come forward on the government atrocities that have been going on. And I think that's the only thing stopping people from coming forward because they saw what happened in the US with Edward Snowden, with Julian Assange, um, and others, Chelsea Manning. They've even been imprisoned for life. They have to uh, get asylum in other countries, or they're, you know, under 24-hour surveillance, solitary confinement. That's going to deter future whistleblowers. I mean, there gonna be some who still come forward regardless. But we can't um, ridicule those who don't come forward because they are scared and they're afraid and they're fearful for their lives, and not only their lives, because some people would come forward if it's just them, but some people have families and children. And I know when you have families and children that the government uses that against you, holds that over your head. But if you do this wrong thing, if you come out with the truth, you know, you have your wife and your kids at home, you know, nothing is 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 too evil for the government. You know, they would do and assassinate anyone if need be to keep people in line, to keep them in check. We normally go against the grain. Yeah, you die with a heart attack. One of the other ways too, but one of the main calling cards of assassination, heart attack, stroke, undisclosed death. You know, gotta look at that kind of suspicious. But I think these two heroes here, Ellis and Martindale, are. I'm glad to see they're calling for the Freedom of Information Act and Whistleblower Protection Act, because one without the other, it has to come as a pair. Because if there's a Freedom of Information Act, you get the information, but you don't have the Whistleblower Act, Protection Act. So if you come and publish it, you could, you could get life, or some countries the death penalty, or treason and all espionage and all that stuff. So it's good that they have to come together. I think if you get those, it's not the end all be all, but it's going to be a step in the right direction to encourage people to come out. Because if whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, Assange, Chelsea Manning, and a host of others who came and got treated like they did, it's going to discourage people from coming out.